this is a story that came down, I think it was sometime late yesterday evening. Leaders throughout college athletics are considering appointing a chief operating officer for college football who would report to a proposed FBS football governing board, as if they don't have enough boards. But a lengthy letter written by from the Lead One Association that was obtained by ESPN.
Yeah, well, they need a COO, a commissioner, or whatever you want to call it. They've needed this for a long time. Part of the issue that the NCAA has had is that, and part of this is Title IX, and that's justifiable that you want to, in the spirit of that law, make sure that if you're going to have 85 scholarships for male athletes, that you have to counterbalance that. But they've also tried to treat football and men's basketball, and now to an extent women's basketball, like every other sport. Mm-hmm. And for football and men's basketball in particular, you have to treat them differently. You cannot treat it like tennis. You can't. It's different. The revenues are different. The recruiting is different. Everything about it's different. So they need to separate out football, and they've been doing that incrementally for a while. But if you did this and separated out football and created a different subset of governors and people overseeing this, and a commissioner or COO, would be so much better. Craig's called it a czar for a long time.
Yep.
It's what they need. The money involved in college football now is akin to a professional league, correct? With the television money.
I was just on the phone with one of our sponsors, Randy Peters, who's at Peters Chevrolet. And he was telling me, he was at the Texas game against TCU, and he said, isn't this now in two ways just like pro football? And he said, it is. The money and the fact you never know what the hell's going to happen from week in and week out.
And television, all these different things, name, image, likeness, all this, so you can have endorsements. So there needs to be someone like the commissioner of football, like Roger Goodell or Gary Bettman in the NHL or Adam Silver. I will not mention Rob Manfred because they don't need anybody like him. But they do need a commissioner to run this thing, a COO, whatever title you want to call him, the poobah, I don't care. But they need somebody to oversee this like a professional sport, because more or less it runs like one.
Yeah, I mean, there's just different rules. There's a different ball game that they're playing in college football versus their peers everywhere else. I mean, maybe men's basketball you could somewhat lump into that because of just the tournament and all that comes with that. But I mean, it's night and day. The football side and tennis or golf or softball or what have you, in every way, shape, and form. Other than they're just athletes at the same school. So I know I've seen plenty of people over the years put up the idea of who would be great at this or have touted themselves as that or whatever. But this isn't about you becoming a commissioner and like, I would put these dream matches together and it's not that. It's way more boring than that, quite frankly, a lot of what this job would entail in so many ways. But I do think that, yes, if there was ever a sport that kind of needed its own lead dog and somebody with the foresight, but also the knowledge of, why it is special in its own right and the need to try and keep that while evolving the same as you possibly can, but being very open-minded and aware to the fact that there does have to be some massive change in some ways. I don't know who has the mind to wrap around all of those things successfully, but there's people out there passionate who love this sport, who are very smart, who I think, put their heads together, can find the right person or persons to lead the charge. And if there's anything missing from college football right now, it is certainly leadership, and it is certainly a singular type of voice. Everybody wants to be that or acts like that. But I think everybody ultimately does need to kind of know where to look in times of need or times, where they arrive at a crossroads of sorts, because every time we've seen a crossroads come up, whether it's realignment, whether it's name, image, likeness, whatever it's been, it's just chickens with their heads, running around. And it's kind of like, it's like Game of Thrones. It's like just power struggles. And there needs to be, more of a steadying hand with everybody's best interest in mind. So I'm all for it. I think, people have been talking about it for years. Like you said with me, I've talked about it for a long time. I know others have as well. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, how receptive people in power are to having somebody else in power above them, like that's where it gets a little bit complicated, most likely. But
easier said than done.
Yeah.
My two big concerns would be Greg Sankey and Kevin Warren, because, when you are, ruling Westeros like they are right
Exactly,
now.
yeah.
Like to have somebody come in and be like, listen, you guys are doing a great job at running your conferences. You have a boss now, though. You have to report to. They're
You
going to
have a
be
new
like,
king.
oh, no. Hold on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, there's that part that you'd have to, be sure everybody was on board with, because, I could see a scenario where you name a college football czar or what have you, and then there's always going to be that threat of those two breaking off and starting their own thing, right? I mean, I think that's calmed down, that talk, but that still very much looms, especially when you look at the college football playoff rankings and you see how easy it would be to put together a Big Ten SEC playoff. I mean, y'all see how that's already, if TCU loses tomorrow, that thing's even easier to try and construct. So, yeah, there's a lot of different agendas. There's a lot of different power, struggles and all of that to have to deal with. But I do absolutely think that, having a singular voice to kind of be the voice of college football and to be the place to go for everybody involved would be a good idea. And certainly better than the way that it's currently constructed.
All right, we